Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are. Melissa did not wait long. She never did. 3 days later, I returned from the grocery store to find her sitting on the hood of my pickup truck like it belonged to her. No bodyguards, no designer armor, just jeans, a dark sweater, hair pulled into a loose knot that made her look almost like the woman I had met years ago. Almost. The moment she saw me, she slid down and walked forward, hands visible, movements slow as if approaching a wounded animal. "Adam, please do not leave." I had not said anything yet. "You read the trust conditions, did you not?" Her voice trembled just enough to sound authentic. I did not answer. She stepped closer. Mother always believed she could control everything, even after death. This clause is insane. Punishes both of us. The word sounded foreign. "You left me," I said quietly. Her jaw tightened. "Because I had to. You would not have survived that world." I stared at her, trying to understand if she even heard herself, or if the story had been repeated so many times it had become truth inside her own head. She reached out, fingers brushing my sleeve. For a second my body reacted before my mind did. Memory is dangerous that way. "I miss you." There it was. Soft, vulnerable, perfectly timed. I remembered the note. "Do not mistake convenience for affection." "You miss control," I said. Her hand withdrew as if burned. "That is not fair." "No," I said, "it is accurate." Silence stretched between us. A car passed slowly down the street, bass thumping from inside, life continuing as if nothing had shifted. Finally she spoke again. "What if we try again? Not for the money. For us." The lie was almost beautiful in its simplicity. I did not even feel anger anymore, just a dull clarity. "If I say yes, 40% of the estate disappears." Her eyes flickered. "So you admit that is what this is about?" "I admit I read the documents." She laughed then, a sharp, brittle sound. "You think this is a game? You think you can punish me by playing along with her little posthumous tricks?" "Punish you?" I shook my head. "Melissa, you destroyed the marriage yourself. I am just refusing to rebuild it for your convenience." Her expression changed. The softness evaporated, replaced by something colder, more familiar. "You are making a mistake." "Possibly. But it is my mistake to make." She stepped back, arms crossing, posture hardening like armor sliding into place. "Do you know what happens when someone like you controls something like hail systems? Hostile takeovers, board revolts, regulatory audits. You will drown in paperwork before you even understand what hit you. Maybe, but at least I will be drowning on my own terms." For a moment she just stared at me, searching for fear, finding none. Something in her eyes fractured. Not grief, not remorse, rage. "You think this makes you strong. It makes you stupid." She turned abruptly and walked toward her car, then stopped with her hand on the door. "You were supposed to be temporary, Adam, not permanent." She drove away before I could respond. That sentence echoed long after the sound of her engine disappeared. Temporary, as if I had been furniture, or scaffolding used during construction and discarded once the building stood on its own. That night I did not turn on the lights. I sat in the dark living room listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the distant noise of traffic. For the first time since inheriting everything, the reality settled fully into place. I was alone, not abandoned, not discarded, alone by choice, and strangely it did not feel as terrible as I had expected. My phone vibrated on the coffee table. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. "Mr. Rivers, this is Detective Laura Bennett." My stomach tightened. "We would like to ask a few questions regarding Eleanor Hale's final weeks." The room suddenly felt colder. "Is something wrong?" Pause. "We are reviewing several irregularities in her medical records. Nothing conclusive. Routine inquiry." Routine. Nothing about this felt routine. I agreed to meet the next morning. The police station smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Detective Bennett was younger than I expected. Sharp eyes, practical haircut, expression that suggested she missed very little. She did not waste time. Your mother-in-law experienced sudden complications shortly before her death. Symptoms inconsistent with her prior medical history. I said nothing. We are not suggesting foul play. But we did discover that someone accessed her medication storage multiple times outside scheduled hours. Someone with family clearance. Melissa. The name hung unspoken between us. Do you believe your ex-wife would harm her mother? The question felt like stepping onto thin ice. I thought about the way Melissa approached problems. Directly, efficiently, without sentiment. I do not know what she is capable of when she thinks she is about to lose everything. Detective Bennett nodded slowly. That is more honest than most answers we get. As I left the station, a realization settled over me like cold rain. Melissa had not come back because she loved me. She had come back because the situation was slipping beyond her control. And people like her did not tolerate losing control. When I pulled into my driveway, her car was there again. This time she was not outside. She was inside the house, sitting at the kitchen table like she still lived there. Keys lay on the counter. She had kept a copy. Of course she had. We need to talk right now, she said without greeting. Her eyes were wide, restless, not seductive, not calculated, afraid. For the first time since the funeral, Melissa Hale looked genuinely scared. And I knew whatever came next would be worse than everything before. I did not drive home right away. Chicago traffic crawled past in slow metallic waves, horns blaring somewhere far behind me, sirens rising and falling like a warning I could not interpret. My hands rested on the steering wheel, but I barely felt it. 5 million to her. Everything else to me. It made no sense. Eleanor Hale had never shown the slightest interest in my existence. She once introduced me to a board member as Melissa's assistant. I had been standing next to my wife at the time. By the time I reached the house, the sun was already sinking behind the neighboring rooftops. The place looked smaller than usual, temporary, like something I had rented in a life that no longer belonged to me. Her car was in the driveway. Of course it was. Melissa did not knock. She was inside, pacing the living room, phone pressed to her ear. No, that is not acceptable. I do not care what the document says. Fix it. She ended the call when she noticed me. Her eyes were sharp, predatory, searching my face for weakness. We need to talk. I leaned against the doorway. You said that last time. This is different. She took a breath, visibly restraining herself. Mother was not in her right mind at the end. Medication, stress, isolation. This will is clearly compromised. She spoke quickly, confidently, like someone pitching a strategy to investors. I said nothing. You will cooperate, she continued. We can present a unified position, contest the document, restore things to their proper structure. Proper structure. Meaning her in control. Meaning me erased again. And if I do not? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Do not be naive, Adam. You cannot run a multinational medical corporation. You will be eaten alive within months. This is not your world. The sentence hung in the air between us. It was not shouted. It did not need to be. I remembered every dinner where I had sat quietly while executives spoke in coded language about mergers and liabilities. Every time Melissa squeezed my knee under the table as a silent reminder not to speak. Every time someone asked what I did and the conversation died when I answered. Maybe she was right. Maybe I did not belong. But for the first time, belonging was not the point. What do you actually want, Melissa? Her gaze sharpened. Control. She did not say the word out loud. Instead she said, fair arrangement. You keep a portion, enough to live comfortably. I resume leadership where it belongs. And we finalize the divorce amicably. There it was. A transaction. Marriage reduced to a failed merger. And if I refuse, she stepped closer, then things will become unpleasant. Legal challenges, public scrutiny, investigations into your competence. You will wish you had accepted my offer. Her perfume, sharp citrus and something metallic, filled my lungs. For a brief moment memories tried to surface. Late night takeout, road trips, the way she used to fall asleep on my shoulder during movies. I crushed them before they could take hold. No, she blinked. No, that is your final answer. Yes. Something dangerous flickered behind her eyes. You have no idea what you are doing. You are right, I said. But for once, neither do you. She grabbed her bag with sudden force, knocking a framed photo off the side table. Glass shattered across the floor. Neither of us picked it up. You will regret this, Adam. She walked out without looking back. Her car engine roared to life, tires spitting gravel as she reversed too fast. Silence flooded the house. I sank onto the couch, staring at the broken frame. It was a photo from our first apartment. We were sitting on the floor eating pizza from the box, laughing at something I could no longer remember. I left the glass where it was. That night's sleep did not come. Around 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it. Curiosity won again. Mr. Rivers, this is Daniel Cho from Hale Corporate Legal. His voice was low, cautious. There are additional documents you need to review regarding the inheritance structure. Additional how? Restrictions, conditions. You should come in person. The corporate headquarters looked even more intimidating at night, its glass facade reflecting the city lights like a mirror to another world. Inside, security escorted me to a conference room on the 42nd floor. Daniel Cho placed a sealed binder in front of me. Your mother-in-law established a contingency trust, he said. Contingency for what? He hesitated. For potential reconciliation. My stomach tightened. I opened the binder. 40% of the estate was locked behind a condition. If I resumed a romantic relationship with Melissa within 24 months, that portion would be permanently redirected to a national public health charity. A safeguard clause. A trap. Attached was a handwritten note in Eleanor's precise script. Adam, if you are reading this, Melissa has already tried to return. Do not mistake convenience for affection. She values control above everything, including you. If she comes back, it will be because she needs something. Do not give it to her. For the first time since the funeral, anger burned hotter than confusion. Eleanor Hale had seen everything, and she had prepared for it. As I left the building, cold night air cutting through my jacket, I realized something unsettling. Melissa would not stop, because this was no longer about grief or pride. It was about survival, and she had never been the kind of person who accepted losing. There were exactly 60 white chairs facing the open grave. I counted them because counting was easier than looking at the coffin. Melissa had chosen those chairs herself. Smooth plastic, elegant, identical, disposable. Only 59 were occupied. The empty one in the front row had my name on a small folded card. No one told me. I found out when the funeral coordinator quietly removed it and slipped it into her folder as if erasing a typo. Apparently, I was not supposed to sit with the family. I stood near the edge of the cemetery under a crooked oak tree, close enough to hear everything, far enough to pretend I was not part of it. Wind moved through the grass in slow waves. Somewhere a lawn mower droned from another section of the cemetery, obscenely ordinary. Melissa wore a fitted black dress and oversized sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. Her red hair fell in perfect glossy waves, untouched by humidity or grief. She did not cry. She performed the idea of mourning. Her mother, Eleanor Hale, had built one of the largest private hospital networks in the Midwest. People called her a visionary. Others called her ruthless. I had only ever known her as the woman who shook my hand once and never remembered my name. When Melissa stepped forward to speak, every phone camera lifted slightly, not openly filming, just hovering. She talked about strength, legacy, sacrifice. She did not mention me, not when listing family, not when thanking those who supported her, not even as a passing reference. I could have been a stranger who wandered in from another burial. Afterward, people formed neat clusters, murmuring, exchanging business cards, planning dinners as if grief were just another networking event. Melissa moved through them like someone walking through a showroom. Then she saw me. For a fraction of a second, her expression tightened. Not sadness, annoyance. She walked straight toward me, heels sinking slightly into the soft earth. You came, she said. Not thank you. Not I am glad. Just observation. Of course I came. She glanced around to make sure no one was close enough to hear. This is not the place to cause a scene. I was not planning to. Good. She adjusted the sleeve of her dress, then added quietly, we will talk later. Later turned out to mean that evening. She arrived at the small house we had rented for 3 years, the one with the peeling porch paint and the uneven driveway. Her car looked like it belonged to another universe parked beside my old pickup. She did not come inside right away. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, as if the building itself offended her. Adam, we need to be honest with each other. Those words never lead anywhere good. I let her talk. Mother changed the will last month, she said. Everything goes to me. The company, the properties, all of it. I nodded because that was expected. Then she continued, and I cannot move forward with you. Just like that. No hesitation. No build-up. I asked what forward meant even though I already knew. Divorce. She said it calmly, like scheduling a dental appointment. You knew this life would change things. I had not. I had believed marriage meant stability, not conditional membership. She handed me an envelope. Inside were papers already prepared. Efficient. Legal. Final. You will be taken care of, she added. I do not want anything, I said. That was the first moment she looked genuinely surprised. Do not be dramatic, Adam. I am not being dramatic. I am just done. 2 days later, she moved out. 3 days later, I heard on the news that Hale Medical Systems had completed a multi-billion-dollar expansion deal. Her face appeared on every screen. Confident. Victorious. Free. Then a week passed. Then another. I began to believe that was the end of the story, until a certified letter arrived requiring my presence at the formal reading of Eleanor Hale's will. I almost threw it away, assumed it was some procedural formality. Curiosity won. The law firm occupied the top floor of a glass tower downtown Chicago. Inside, everything was quiet in the way expensive places always are, as if noise itself were not allowed past reception. Melissa sat at the conference table wearing a pale gray suit. Next to her was a tall man I had never seen before, his hand resting casually on the back of her chair. She did not introduce him. The attorney cleared his throat. We will proceed with the final testament of Eleanor Margaret Hale. He began listing foundations, research grants, endowments. Then the primary inheritance. To my daughter, Melissa Claire Hale, I leave the sum of $5 million to be administered by the Board of Trustees. Melissa leaned forward. Excuse me, did you say $5 million? Yes. Her expression hardened. That cannot be correct. The attorney continued without reacting. The remainder of my estate shall be transferred to the individual named in the attached letter. He opened a sealed envelope. If you are hearing this, Melissa, I am no longer alive. Your ambition always exceeded your loyalty. You treated people as temporary tools, including your husband. I observed how quickly you discarded him once you believed your position secure. I built my empire on difficult decisions, but never on betrayal of those who stood beside me. Therefore, my legacy will pass to the person who remained when there was nothing to gain. Adam Michael Rivers. Every sound in the room disappeared. Melissa turned slowly, eyes wide, face draining of color. The man beside her removed his hand from her chair, as if it had suddenly become hot. I sat frozen, certain I had misunderstood. But the attorney continued. You are hereby named sole beneficiary of all remaining assets, holdings, and controlling interests of Hale Medical Systems. The amount was not spoken aloud. It did not need to be. I had accidentally inherited a corporate empire worth more money than I could comprehend. Melissa whispered something that sounded like no. Not angry, not outraged, just stunned. I left the room before anyone could speak to me, because suddenly breathing felt difficult. And outside, for the first time in months, I realized something simple and terrifying. She had walked away from me believing I was nothing. Now I was the only thing standing between her and losing everything. She did not stand when I entered the kitchen. Melissa Hale, the woman who once commanded boardrooms with a single raised eyebrow, sat hunched forward, fingers interlocked so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Something had cracked. Adam, you cannot talk to the police again. Again. So she already knew. How? I closed the door slowly. Her eyes darted toward the window as if expecting someone to be listening from the street. Because they do not understand what happened. Then explain it. Silence. The refrigerator hummed loudly in the background. Absurdly calm. She swallowed. Mother was sick. Yes. You know that. She was getting worse. Doctors were experimenting with different medications. Her voice sounded rehearsed but fragile, like a script memorized under pressure. You accessed her medication storage multiple times at night. Her head snapped up. Who told you that? I did not answer. She stood abruptly, chair scraping across the tile. You think I was trying to hurt her? Her voice rose, cracking on the last word. I was trying to help her. With what? She began pacing the kitchen, movements jerky and unfocused. She was terrified of losing control, Adam. Of dying slowly, helplessly. She wanted options. Options. The word landed heavily. So she asked me to get stronger doses. Unapproved combinations. Things her doctors would not authorize. My stomach turned. You are saying she asked you to do this? Melissa stopped pacing. For a moment she looked very young. Very tired. She did not want to suffer. Did she put that in writing? No, of course not. Then how would anyone know it was her idea? Her eyes filled suddenly, tears finally appearing but not falling. Because I know. Because I was there. Because she trusted me. I studied her face carefully, searching for the precise point where truth ended and self-preservation began. Detective Bennett thinks something else happened. Her expression froze. What did you tell them? Nothing. Yet, she took a step toward me. Adam, listen to me. If this turns into an investigation, everything will be destroyed. The company, the foundation, her legacy, your inheritance. So now it was my inheritance she cared about. What do you want me to do? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Tell them she was confused, that she asked you to help, that she talked about not wanting to suffer. In other words, she closed her eyes briefly. Not lie. Protect her. Protect us. There was no us. There had not been for a long time. You left me, remember? Her eyes opened again, sharp with desperation. I made a mistake. There it was. Not I hurt you. Not I am sorry. A mistake. Like choosing the wrong investment. Help me fix it. I felt something inside me finally go still. Not anger. Not pain. Just a clean, quiet absence. Cannot do that. Her face went blank. You would let them destroy everything. Everything is already destroyed, Melissa. She stared at me as if seeing a stranger. For a long moment neither of us spoke. Then she whispered something so quietly I almost missed it. She was supposed to leave it all to me. Not you. Not Charity. Not anyone else. Me. There it was. The core of everything. Not grief. Not guilt. Ownership. I stepped back toward the door. I am calling my lawyer. Her head snapped up. Adam, do not do this. For once in your life, stop trying to control the outcome. I walked out before she could say anything else. Outside, cold evening air filled my lungs like oxygen after being underwater too long. My hands trembled as I dialed. Not from fear, from release. The investigation took months. Civil hearings first. Then a formal inquiry into Eleanor Hale's end-of-life care. No criminal charges were filed. There was not enough proof. But the findings were enough. Unauthorized medication access. Violation of medical protocols. Financial conflict of interest. Melissa was removed permanently from any leadership role within the Hale organizations. Her remaining personal assets were tied up in litigation and settlements. Board members she once commanded refused to meet her eyes. Investors distanced themselves quietly but decisively. She did not go to prison. Something worse happened. She became irrelevant. As for the inheritance, the courts upheld the will in full. No revisions. No compromises. No restoration of her claim. I never moved into the mansion. Never tried to play the role of corporate emperor. Instead, I hired competent people and stayed mostly out of the spotlight. I sold the big house we had shared and bought a modest place outside Madison, Wisconsin. A small lake, tall pines, winters that forced you to slow down whether you wanted to or not. 6 months later, I adopted a golden retriever from a local rescue. He had cloudy eyes and a permanent limp but greeted every morning like it was a miracle. People sometimes ask if I feel victorious. I do not. Victory implies competition. This never felt like winning. It felt like surviving something that could have hollowed me out completely. One evening, almost a year after the funeral, I found Melissa standing at the edge of my driveway. No luxury car, no tailored coat, just a plain jacket and tired eyes. She looked smaller somehow, less defined. Adam, she said quietly. I waited. I am leaving the country. I do not think I will come back. There was no drama in her voice, just exhaustion. I hope you find what you were looking for, I said. She gave a faint, hollow smile. I already did. I just destroyed it. For a moment it felt like we were two strangers discussing the weather. She turned and walked away without asking for anything, without blaming, without trying to negotiate. I watched until she disappeared down the road. Then I went back inside. The dog lifted his head, thumped his tail once, satisfied that everything was as it should be. Outside, snow had started falling, slow, quiet, covering the ground in a clean, unbroken layer. For the first time in years, the silence did not feel empty, felt peaceful. Not because I had inherited an empire, not because she had lost hers, but because the person I used to be, the one who waited for permission to exist, was finally gone. And what remained was enough, more than enough. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.